Hello, I'm Mathenge, and this is the Stories We Keep podcast, which I started the beginning of this year. Personally, I live two lives. I am a photographer and I'm also a physiotherapist. This podcast is basically based on looking for a connection between the two or telling you talking stories which are both given through photography and through physiotherapy. So I welcome you to this podcast, and I hope we are going to do everything together. Now, I will start by saying my two lives. I have been my first life is photography. I've been doing photography for the past 5 years now, and I majorly do portrait and wedding photography. And through the 5 years, I've realized something about photography. I started photography way much earlier. Like I said in my previous episode, when I was showing you some of the printed photos I have, I did photography. That time I was using film back in high school. That's when I started interacting with the camera. And I did some good shots, but I never understood how much of a story photography would tell. And then I went back to photography back in 2020 during the COVID time. Around 2020, that's when I came back now and wanted to learn more about photography. I did my classes, read photography books, and photography is just amazing because it's where you play with light to tell a story. And now I came to a point where I realized nowadays we're just doing photography just for the sake. So I thought, why not do something that's a bit different? Try and show people the beauty of art, photography as art. And that's what we've been doing. We have had some nice photo shoots that we have done, and the outcome was amazing. My second life is as a physiotherapy. I've been practicing physiotherapy in a health setup for almost a decade now, and it's amazing. On the other side, it has its highs and lows, and I would say it's one of the experiences that you see and appreciate life, because you think we got everything in life until you lose that part of life that mattered most. You get a stroke, get to an accident, and one of your functions stops. So through my career life, I have seen people change. I've heard stories, I've talked with clients, and we've gone with them through emotionally. I've seen patients recover. I have seen stories that can be told. So what I would say basically is my two careers actually connect, and now I think I'm adding a third profession, which I want to do podcast and be able to tell stories, and not just photography. Mostly we'll be talking about photography, but I would want it to be more of the connection between. So photography is something amazing, physiotherapy is something amazing, the connection is beautiful. When you're able to tell stories, photography shows you who you are, and physiotherapy is like who you are, and you get the connection, and it provides everything. Emotionally, they both work together. Photography also works in healing. Physio is healing also. So the whole thing is about working in collaboration with each other. And what got me into doing wanting to connect the two, or wanting to do a podcast, and where I got the stories we keep. I remember one day, like 6 or 7 months ago, a client was brought in my clinic, and this client was on a wheelchair, a young male around that 12 to 40 years, and he was telling me how he got the accident. He was off from a hike in Mount Kenya, and now they were going back home with the wife when they got an accident. And he didn't realize it until way later, like a week later after the accident. That's when he realized he couldn't even feel his legs. So it was actually a very emotional engagement. But what hit me most was when he reached into his wallet and gave me a photo which was folded four times, I guess. And I didn't realize what it was until I opened it, and it was a photo of him when they were doing the hike with the wife. And they seemed so happy, And he told me that's the only memory he have on the last day he could walk. And I told him I do photography, and that just gave me a different dimension of what the two things I do in life. So that brought the connection between the two worlds that I do. So I am doing this, and I basically wanted to grow. So on what we should expect next is we'll do photography sessions. This is in the podcast, so we'll talk more about photography. We'll do health sessions, health and physiotherapy sessions. This is where we'll talk about health and how we need to maintain ourselves moving, And we'll also have engagements, we'll have guests, later, because some of my clients actually who I told what I do, and I do podcasts, some won't even tell the story. I have had patients who have recovered, and they only tell me, like, I would want to talk about the pain I went through that time and how you helped me get to this point. So I feel that's an engagement we'll get to later, and I appreciate that I didn't ask them to do it, but they won't talk about it. It gives a different vibe when a person wants to talk it from his or her own vocation. So that's what I'm planning. But the podcast will be amazing. It should be amazing because you're going to realize how much photography actually should be able to do. I remember I told you I read a lot of photography books, and I remember one time reading about photography as art. When photography started, the people who made camera, that was early in the 16th century, they made this camera that when you press the shutter, it would take you, I think, 100 minutes before you get one photo. So when you are doing photography and you press the shutter, there is the shutter opening and closing. So the shutter would take that long. 100 minutes is long, to take a photo. But in the 1900s, between 1900 and 1920, there was this back and forth push about photography being an art, because that time what was known as art was just the paintings, and that's why paintings are expensive, because paintings take time. They take time. A person doing a piece, maybe an A3 piece, would take days or even months to complete the painting. That's why it's so expensive. And now getting to visualize what the person was telling in the painting, that takes a lot of thought, And now, in the 1920s, that's when photography was actually recognized as art after a lot of back and forth. So it has been like that, the film camera came. It was one of the best up to now. I feel it, because how long it takes someone to produce a film photo, the printed one. You have to go to the dark room and do all that. It used to take long. And now in the digital era, you just have a camera, press a button, you can take a lot of shots, and you can get a soft copy. That's the amazing part. So now I'm using a Canon camera. That's what I'm recording on right now. I started off with a Canon 250D from 2021. I used it up to last year. That's when I upgraded my camera, and bought two lenses, and it has really been a journey, But I'm also looking to get myself back a film camera, because I had one kitambo in when I was in high school. So I'm looking to getting back. So photography is beautiful, and I'm here encouraging people. There are those moments that you capture that you need to get them printed. For me, I'm going to champion for printing photos, because there is this time you go home and unatolewa album, and you as a family, you are happy going through it. That's what I will champion about. The other part is physio. On the side of physio, it's one of the best courses you can ever do, one of the professions you can, because you see clients for a long period. I remember my longest client that I saw her for 6 years, every week. So it gives you a connection, and you get to learn and know a lot of stories about the patient. You move on a journey with the patient, and it's something beautiful. And recording that or having that in photography, it's amazing. A patient shows you who he was or who she was before, and then you get the patient to recover. I have this client of mine. I worked with her for 2 years, and getting her to walk again was a journey. So last week she sent me a photo, a very beautiful photo, and I told her she should print it, because she told me it reminds her of the pain she went through and the journey she was on. So this is what we'll be talking about. I want to get the connection, and you will see how beautiful it is to maintain these memories. Physiotherapy is all about working, maintaining the movement, and the same way you have 40,000 in your 40,000 photos sitting in your camera or in your phone. If you're that static, even in life, you're going to have a lot of problems. So you have to keep on going, and you have to keep on doing things that juggle your mind. So we are going to connect the two, and I want to discourage this thing of just going and spend a fortune on a photo shoot, or spend on a fortune in photography, and then you end up losing the photos. Things happen, fires break, phones are lost, clouds sometimes just disappear, and you can't access where you have backed up your photos. So always make sure you have a printed photo. I want also to engage with people who can do beautiful arts. Nowadays, we are doing canvas more, because canvas will stay and will last longer than the normal photo mount. And canvas are really staying, and they are beautiful. You can actually make big A3, A2, is 1, A0, or you can customize what size you want and get a very beautiful photo. So don't spend a lot of money, and because it's your birthday, you go for a shoot and that's done. And I realized something else. When you do photos and you don't get an amazing quality, it will just be beautiful when you are viewing it for the first time. But later you take 3, 4, 5 months down the line, you see the photo again, and you realize you didn't love yourself as much. So there is this part where I tell people, if you do a wedding today, and remember, in a wedding, photography is the only thing that you remain with. Cakes you eat, food you eat, tents zinatolewa after the event, and a lot of things changes. But what memories do you have of your wedding or your anniversary? It will just be the video you took or the photos. And I feel bad when people just take photography as a part of a day where you have a wedding, and it's the only memory you and your spouse will have. We'll sit down 10 years later and look at it and be like, wow, this was amazing. So I would say the good thing is, I want, in my line of work, before the wedding, I'll always sit with the couple, and we are going to talk about the time they need to do their photography. You don't want me to create beautiful shots of you, but you want to give me 15 minutes to do 100 shots. No, it can't work like that, because you have to plan for a shoot. You have to plan, you have to have a mood board on what you're going to do. So whatever it comes, you have to have a plan, whether it's about recovery, creating memories, having those emotions. It has to come out of something that you feel that got you emotional. And I'm looking at having photography evolve to be something beautiful. So we'll have engagements with other photographers who have done some amazing work. And I wish when the podcast grow, we can get someone like Rim. I love Rim's work. You can check out Rim, REEM, in Instagram or YouTube. He has done some nice work. And on my side, so I want to connect both, and I want to tell stories. I do photography that tells stories, and I'm looking forward to creating more. So this our engagement space. We'll be talking, we'll be having more of this. Sometimes I do live in TikTok, and you can also hit me up. We engage more. And we do portraits, wonderful portraits. And we also do wedding photography. And now I'm doing podcasts. So this is Mathenge, your new podcaster in town. And I have a YouTube channel I opened last week. It's called Mathenge Zach Podcast on YouTube. You can go check it out and subscribe. And we are going to engage more. So we're going to talk more about health, physiotherapy, photography, the connection behind all that. So you have a good time. We'll be creating weekly episodes, and I hope to see you around. Have fun.